Welcome to Takeaway. In this edition, we're going to be talking to Liam White, who's the co-founder of Dr. Wheels. He's going to be telling us how they sold 10,000 bottles of ketchup with Tesco's with zero budget. And I'm going to be giving a talk on how food and drink brands can go viral on TikTok and Instagram Reels. I will be talking today about how to go viral with TikTok and Instagram Reels. They don't need any introduction, I'm sure, to any of you, so I won't teach any of you how to suck eggs. But what I will do is go through a quick intro about us, Fourth Floor, and myself. So Fourth Floor is an influencer marketing agency based in Bristol in the Southwest. We are a specialist influencer agency. We specialize in working with games brands, hardware brands, and food and drink brands. We have a real specialism with YouTube, as well as agnostic really to all platforms. But YouTube really is our kind of bread and butter. Myself, I'm Tom, aka Tom Foodery, which is my Instagram name. Follow me, all of you, please. And I head up our food and drink division here at Fourth Floor. I've been working here for the last 2.5 years, but for the last 8 years, I've been working with food and drink brands across influencer marketing, PR, marketing, events. And these are just some of the brands that I've worked with. And most of these really are creating viral content through influencer-led campaigns. That's where my kind of speciality lies, really. So going into my presentation, which as I've said, is how to go viral with TikTok and Instagram Reels. I'm just gonna caveat that with you quickly in that this presentation isn't necessarily gonna be how to create content that is going to make you go viral. That's gonna be very specific to each of your brands, your personalities, your individual identities. What this really is the mindset that brands need to adopt when trying to have success and go viral with TikTok and Instagram Reels. We will go into this in more detail throughout the presentation, but it really is a case of adopting a totally different mindset to any other kind of content strategies that you already have in place. They should complement them, but as I said, it is very different. So we have a data team here at Fourth Floor, and they normally are producing data for post-campaign success, which we then deliver to our clients. But I spoke to them and asked them to come up with, see what data they could get for us on Instagram Reels and TikTok. It's quite top level stuff, but some of it's really interesting. So some of the stats that we managed to pull out from the technology that we've built in-house, I will add, is that, I'm sure it comes as no surprise that TikTok has a slightly younger audience, with 69% of users falling between 13 and 24. I spend way too much time on Instagram and TikTok as a 37-year-old. It makes me cringe slightly that the demographic is so young and I spend so much time on it. But that's just me. I call it work, even at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm scrolling through rubbish. And then with Instagram Reels, or Instagram in general, really, that user group is around 32%. So actually quite a big difference. The differences between the two apps, again, just top level stuff. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, so I won't go into this in too much detail. But the difference in length, 60 seconds with TikTok, 30 seconds with Instagram Reels, which is quite a big difference if you are producing content that you want to fit to both, if you want to repurpose it for both platforms. Again, another big difference really is the fact that music is available for any business accounts. You're not really, all you are given is more features with a business account with TikTok. Yet with Instagram Reels, you get less features as a business. I think that's just going to be down to copyright issues that hopefully they will sort out. The analytics and the filters and effects with TikTok are way more advanced than Instagram has currently, but we would expect Instagram to develop these soon. So I'm just going to go for a bit of a raise of hands, I guess. Is this possible to do on Zoom when you can't see everyone? But let's do a raise of hands anyway. Who's using TikTok? I saw some floaty up and down hands. That's, I'm guessing, some personal use without much business use. And who is using Instagram, specifically Instagram Reels, currently for their brand? Okay, yeah, a few. So one of the key differences with Instagram, with TikTok, and now with Instagram Reels, and this is specific to Instagram Reels over the rest of Instagram, is that the algorithms have totally and utterly changed, and they are now surfacing content to users based predominantly on creativity. If you're producing really creative content, you have much more chance of being seen by the masses, of being seen by way more people than follow you, which essentially is what going viral means. So yeah, the algorithms have changed, which is why adopting a different mindset is going to be so important when adopting both of these channels as part of your marketing strategy. And in doing so and concentrating on creativity first will give you a much higher chance of going viral and being successful on these apps. And another good point to raise is whether that is your own content, whether you're partnering with an influencer to create content for you, or whether or not this is just a normal person that uses TikTok and makes a video with your product in it. There are huge potentials for going viral and for building really rich communities. Something I really want to highlight with this, who has seen the story and the news recently about Little Moons and the success that they've had with TikTok? No, interesting. Okay, so I will just give a little bit of information about them. So they create these really little, really cool mochi balls is what they're called. They're gelato it's a Japanese snack basically. They're little balls of ice cream with a really delicious coating around them. Somebody on TikTok who had maybe a couple of hundred followers created a video talking about they were going to find them in Tesco. Within a few weeks, their rate of sales had gone up 1,700% because it had just turned into a trend. And that is the power really of not just working with influencers, but just everyday people being able to create content that can go viral on these platforms. Okay, so I'm going to look at 6 tips for going viral with TikTok and Reels. And as I said earlier, the caveat to that is this is about adopting the right mindset as opposed to the tricks of how to create content, because that is very personal. So tip number 1 for you is to be obsessed. Now, if you haven't looked at the clock and realized you've spent 3 hours on TikTok in a rabbit hole consuming the most random content possible, then you're probably not the right person to be leading your TikTok or Instagram Reels strategy. You really need to be losing yourself and absorbing the trends and the culture of both of these apps, because they are different, to be able to understand them. And if you don't understand them, you'll end up coming in as a brand that could easily just be ignored and lost amongst a crowd of really creative content. And the best thing to do, one of the best things to do when scrolling is, if you see something that really takes your fancy, something that you engage with, then imagine how your brand could potentially fit into that content and either repurpose that yourself or look for creators that you could partner with that could create that for you. Okay, number 2 segues nicely from the last point, which is to approach creating content, approaching the platforms as a consumer and not as a brand. The process of creating content for TikTok and Reels is totally different from any other social media. And I'm going to repeat that throughout because it really is. And having a plan is fine. You're having a content plan like any other social media strategies that you have, but being agile and being able to react to the trends that are happening, any new music which happens, which starts to become a trend, those are the things that are really, really important. And actually, imperfection is way more authentic, but trying to be too polished, trying to be too brand specific can actually hinder you for success on these apps. And this is on the last point there, get to the point fast if you have one. You don't have to have a point. Your content does not always have to have a point with TikTok or Instagram Reels. Tip number 3, the rules no longer exist. So this is really down to brands with strict, rigid content guidelines. If you are rigid with them and you're not prepared to bend them or experiment with them even slightly, then you could find TikTok and Instagram Reels pretty difficult to have success with. Being overly precious about your brand color palettes, the fonts, typefaces that you use, and making sure that your logo is in shot at all times, all of these things, again, are just not necessary. What is much more important, particularly with TikTok on this next point, is using the tools and the editing features within the app so that you blend in rather than sticking out. Because if you are using fonts that aren't native, people will see it. People are glued to these apps, glued to TikTok all the time, and they'll spot straight away if it doesn't look authentic. And when partaking in trends, which is a big part of TikTok and Instagram Reel culture, and Instagram is going to mature much the same as TikTok is, then you need to look like you're in on the action, you're in on the joke, and you're not cashing in from the outside. You're not just trying to take advantage of the cultures that have been built by everyday users. Nobody wants the kind of backlash from, wading on a joke that you don't belong to, Tip number 4 from me is to be playful and to be brave. Finding your playful side with your own content and with working from influencers is just super important. Being able to be silly, playful, as you see down here, I've added some key adjectives that can really help you with creating content. And these shouldn't be necessarily content pillars, but just being able to be silly and to surface your more playful side, more juvenile side at times. If you go back to the demographics that we showcased just now, you might need to bend your guidelines, your brand guidelines, to be a bit more playful and be a bit more silly at times, to be able to fit in and embrace the abstract and the abstractness of both of these platforms. And being lighthearted will definitely make you more likable and way more approachable. I'm going to put a couple of questions to some of you. Liam, I'm going to start with you. Have you guys started to think about TikTok or started to think about using Instagram Reels as part of your content strategies?
Yeah, TikTok. So we, off the back of Little Moons' success, which I think a lot of brands have seen and tried to emulate, we spoke to those guys and started doing TikTok. We quickly realized that no one in the team had the knowledge of the platform and energy for it, or mindset, as you said. So we actually have a student who loves TikTok, who runs the platform for us. And we check in with her weekly, and she's got a real eye for the trends and the things that are happening, and we've had to sort of relax our brand guidelines and accept that kind of almost anything goes on TikTok.
That's so interesting.
It's really interesting. Yeah, but we're trying.
Additional question to that: Are you allowing that junior member staff to be a face of the brand? Are they showing themselves as part of their content, or is it strictly product related stuff?
No, it can show themselves pretty much free reign to do what they want. She runs post buyer, so we have a quick check and make sure it's not miles off brand, but we're really relaxed about it. I think you need to be in order to succeed.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think being human on TikTok and Instagram Reels is really vitally important, because people are naturally responsive to other people. There's a brand, you may have seen them in car garages, and there's a company called Real, and they do milkshakes, automated milkshake machines. I will send you a link when I follow up to everybody. Watching their Instagram account is really worthwhile from a brand perspective, from a food and drink brand perspective. Super playful, really interesting, and it's one guy basically that's leading it, and he is the brand character. He's the mascot that you see on pretty much all cereal boxes when you were growing up. He's that character, and he's really adopted it, and he's adopted it really well. I'll share that with you. Tip number 5, when working with influencers on both platforms, the key thing is to look at creativity as well as followers. Now, creativity of content should really be the number one deciding factor of who to work with. And as Liam mentioned just then about Little Moons and the success of that, and lots of brands are trying to figure out how they can have such success. And the reason they did was from a normal user, I think, who had a few hundred or maybe a couple of thousand followers. And that started a huge trend of people trying to find Little Moons in Tesco's, going to other shops, trying to find it wherever they could. And the fact that they've got a 1700% uplift in sales from Tesco is just incredible. I wanted them to do a talk on this event, but they were just way too busy. There was just absolutely no way, which is a nice problem to have, obviously. But one of the things that they said was that Ground Zero, this one person that created this piece of content, wasn't somebody that was on their radar, wasn't somebody that was a big influencer or TikToker, but they had created pretty interesting content. And I think looking at the trends that do happen on both of these platforms, they are very creative. And I look at some of the content from teenagers, and I look at it and I think, if this was available when I was a teenager, God, I would hate to look back on it. But I just think young people have so much creativity in their hands, and they're willing to use it. And as brands, respectfully and tactfully, that is the best way of approaching people, is to find people that are not necessarily 10, 20, 50, 100,000 followers, because that's not necessarily important anymore, which is a really, really nice shift from a brand perspective and from a content creator perspective, is that actually now creativity is being rewarded over the amount of followers that you generate along the way. And this goes back into the algorithm changing and how you approach and work with influencers. Maybe it's a case of a dozen normal people with a few hundred followers are better than working with one person with 250,000, because the reach may get you there better. One person might create that bit of special content. Ensure that everyone gets value. Now this leads me on to our values here at Fourth Floor, and this is something that we call the value triangle. And every campaign, every business that we work with, this is at the heart of everything that we do, and making sure that the creators, our influencers, get value, and that is by allowing them to build their audience and to make a living, which is vitally important for career influencers, people who do this as a job. For the audience, they need to gain entertainment, information, and status, and deliver for the brands on their business objectives, sales objectives, and whatever those campaign goals are, because they do differ every time. And this is part of our service overview. Events, Kat here is helping me with the event today. She's our events director. Mikey, who's in front of me, is one of our production team. We're a great team, we're a multifaceted team. So I'm just going to introduce Liam again. Liam's co-founder of Dr. Wills. We've been in touch for 18 months, 2 years now, and I absolutely love the brand. When I heard about the campaign they did with Tesco and the fact that they launched into Tesco, I was really keen to get them on board to do this talk today. So Liam, over to you.
All right, I won't talk for too long, save more time for Q&A afterwards, but I was planning to do a quick intro to our brand and then talk a little bit about the campaign we ran over the summer when we launched in Tesco, and that was all about selling, how we could try and sell 10,000 bottles over the course of the summer, and then we've donated £10,000 worth of sauce to food banks, having hit that target. So just start off by talking about our brand, and hopefully we sent out some samples this week to everybody who put their address on the spreadsheet. So hopefully lots of you have got some product there and are able to give it a try if you haven't seen us already. So what we're about, so we're on a mission to make food better, and what that means is better for you, better tasting, better for the planet. Started by 3 people, so myself, Dr. Will, and Josh. Will's a doctor, a medical doctor who loves food. We're not about clean eating, kale salads. We're just about condiments with a dollop of common sense. We were looking at, as we started, we were seeing the success of brands like Brewdog, Fever Tree, Propercorn, taking categories that have been dominated by traditional brands, and coming in with healthier, better for you alternatives, innovative packaging, and also adding flavor that's been sort of missing for a long time. So we're here to challenge dominant brands in the category and show consumers a better way to make sauce. In terms of our range, we started off with our ketchup, beetroot ketchup and barbecue sauce trio back in 2017. We launched into a series of independent restaurants, cafes, delis, got into Ocado in 2018. And then 2019, we got into places like Selfridges, Harvey Nicks, and branched out into food service and export, started selling into things like office spaces, pubs, restaurants. And then last year was a bit of a breakthrough year for us where we got listed in Tesco and Waitrose. We've now got a range of 10 products. So our original 3, plus we launched 2 dressings, Caesar miso tahini, a hot sauce, sriracha hot sauce, and we've got 4 mayonnaises. In terms of why we're different, so we've got a full range, which a lot of the brands don't have, across ketchup, barbecue sauce, mayo, dressings, hot sauce, despite only having 10 products. We recently became a B Corp. We got certified in December of last year, something we've been working on for 18 months. Won some great taste awards across our range. Online marketing, social is super important to 5,000 followers on Instagram, and our products are all natural. So everything we make is sweetened with dates, so we don't have any added sugar, and all the ingredients are things that you can recognize, pronounce, would typically have in your kitchen. So that's just a quick whistle-stop tour to Dr. Will's. What we're going to talk about today is the Support Our Sauce campaign that we ran over last summer. So just as a bit of background, we launched into Tesco and Waitrose together in August of last year, middle of a pandemic. Couldn't activate in the way that we would normally want to. We wanted to be out and about in the stores, meeting managers, but that wasn't, we were sort of in between lockdowns, probably wasn't the right thing for us to do. And we didn't have any budget. We were in the process of fundraising. So we had to be creative. The thing that we realized was we've got an army of friends, family, investors who've supported us all the way since 2017. And the challenge was, how could we use that to drive rate of sale in store? We came up with a solution, which was we clearly didn't have any budget, so we couldn't be spending lots of money on Facebook and Instagram ads to go particularly wide. So we needed content that would really resonate with people. So we realized that we could create this emotional, unpolished, quick and easy content, and heavily focus on activating our personal network. And a lot of that was through LinkedIn. So we set up the campaign. So campaign statement: if we were to sell 10,000 bottles of Tesco over the summer in Tesco, it was over a 2-month period, we donate 10K worth of sauce to food banks across the UK. At the start, there was quite a lot of positive tensions in the team. So sales and marketing, there's a bit of a debate around what we call the campaign. We originally wanted to call it Save Our Sauce. Sales were worried that it would sound like a D-list, and that we were, if we didn't hit the targets, we'd be out. Marketing were keen to really pull on the heartstrings. I think you've got to be really careful with these things, that if you end up if there's too much tension and you end up watering things down too much, you lose the whole emotional edge. So we ended up with support our sauce, but we were really open with our content, and we made it really clear to people that we just launched in Tesco, but we're competing against one of the biggest brands in the world, and if we don't get people buying it quickly, we're not going to be there we won't be there next summer. So we were really open about that, and I think that's something that we try to do in all of our content at Dr. Will's, and try and be a bit different from other brands, and just try and be more refreshing just by talking about it how it is, and not necessarily in the way that other brands might do it, because that's what's sort of the done thing in the industry. We realized we had a few content pillars that we could pull on. So Dr. Will being the first and the most obvious one for us. Will's a real doctor, and that gives us a huge point of difference for our brand, and something that we always try to make the most of. Will's awesome. He's a full-time doctor. He's a surgeon up in Newcastle. So he spends all his time up there working super hard as a surgeon, and in his spare time he's the face of the Dr. Will's brand, and is brainstorming and figuring out how we can get in front of more people, product launches, and is involved in everything brand related.
Can I stop you 1 minute?
Yeah.
Just to ask a question about the brand. Was the decision made? I know this isn't totally related to the campaign, but was the decision made to name the product Dr. Will's because of the brand? It would give you a brand difference.
Yeah, exactly that. So straight away we realized that we had a doctor behind our brand that many people don't, and it would give us real authenticity versus other brands. So yeah, we decided that straight away, and yeah, we've never intend to change that.
Cool.
Approachable foodies is another pillar for us. So we're all about down to earth. At the end of the day, it's ketchup. It's not something posh. It's something you have with everyday food. So we try and create content around everyday meals and how you can elevate them a little bit by adding sauce. And that's something that we've seen resonate more and more over the pandemic, because people are cooking at home more and looking for quick shortcuts to add flavor. So we try and show people that they can add, our ketchup can be added to sauces, barbecue can be used as a marinade, and you can use them beyond the traditional sort of dipping that you would with ketchup and barbecue sauce and mayonnaise. Fitness is a big one for us. We're a health brand after all, and we happen to have 3 founders who are really into sport and fitness, and we tried to bring that into that. Josh, my co-founder, is a bit of a maniac, so we ran, you can see from here, ran 75k one Saturday, and does all sorts of marathons, ultra running. Will and I are a little bit more moderated, but we try and bring that into our content because it's who we are. And then the other one is teamwork. So we try and show our faces as much as possible, and again, this unpolished content. So how we did it, we had 2 weekly status updates, and we just had 5-minute calls after setting up this 8-week campaign. The campaign was to sell 10,000 bottles over an 8-week period. So in the first meeting on the Monday, we would run through the plan for the week, content-wise, and then our marketing manager would send a follow-up email, this bulletin with everything that was going to happen content-wise, what was going out on Facebook and Instagram, what each founder would be posting on LinkedIn and other members of our team, and then anything that was going out in the newsletter, our WhatsApp broadcast that we'll talk about a little bit more later. And then on a Thursday, we'd check in again, make sure we're on track, see how the week had gone, and then also check the metrics. So look at our sales process progress throughout the week, because we get daily updates from Tesco. In terms of content channels for the campaign, we use 4 primarily. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, which is primarily organic because we didn't have any budget, WhatsApp, the WhatsApp broadcast, and then email. So going into LinkedIn first. LinkedIn has become almost the most important channel for us at Dr. Will's, and I think it's a really underutilized platform for a lot of businesses. You can get huge organic reach because it just hasn't been monetized in the way that Facebook and Instagram have been. So we have all worked quite hard to build up our network on LinkedIn, and we get really good view counts. You can see Will's video, 5,500 views, mine 8.5, and then Josh is the standout there. He's the biggest networker of us by a long way, nearly 20,000 views. And we tried to be just honest and emotional with our content. So I went back to originally before Dr. Will's, I used to work in investment banking. So I went to back there before I met Will and Josh. Josh went back to the restaurant where at the very beginning where we made the sauces. He was running that restaurant before we started Dr. Will's. And then Will went back to the hospital where he was working when we thought about the idea. So we try and just keep things really simple. And we just talk to a camera, 2 minutes. No, as you can see, there's not much production value in the stuff that we produce intentionally. A few more examples of some of the stuff we do, a few graphics, and then some of the teamwork stuff. As you can see, Josh again winning the prize with 12,000 views on his video.
Can I just do a quick stop for a bit of a show of hands to see who's actually using LinkedIn as a marketing channel? No? Yeah, not many.
There we go.
Interesting.
Okay. 1. So moving on to how we supported that across Instagram and Facebook. So similar kind of thing. Our Instagram's a little bit more polished. So we'd have cover photos on the videos, for example, to try and keep that aesthetic. But again, behind that, we'd use the videos and we'd use the emotion. And we find that when we have the people behind the brand in the photos, rather than almost the more polished our content is, the worse it performs, we find, because people want to see the people behind the brand. And I think people are a little bit tired of this kind of perfect Instagram content. So I find it a little bit refreshing to see something a bit different sometimes. And then the WhatsApp one, which is one that I don't think many brands are doing. So we realized, and this is credit to our great head of marketing who's used these before, we realized you could do a WhatsApp broadcast, which is essentially a one-way WhatsApp channel with your closest, it could be with anybody, but we set it up for our closest Dr. Will's source fans. So we originally, all the founders would essentially send messages to everyone on WhatsApp with a link to join our broadcast. And we set up, and then we post on LinkedIn about it, and we put it in our newsletter to try and get people who are already seeing the Dr. Will's brand on other platforms to come into our WhatsApp broadcast. And what it means is we have direct communication via WhatsApp with probably the 300 most loyal Dr. Will's fans. And it meant that for the campaign, we could run some challenges and we could also get instant feedback on things. So here's a few examples of some of the things we sent on WhatsApp. So you see top left was, I think, one of the first, top right was one of the first posts we ever had. So we welcome people to the club, asked them to go and buy a bottle in Tesco, send us a picture. If they did, we then send them another source in the post. And then we also asked them to add as many people as to send over numbers or share the link with other people so that they could join the broadcast. And I think we've got about 250 people in this group. So it's small, but intentionally small, because we just want our closest kind of fans there. And I think we always kind of think about what we're doing versus what the big brands are doing. And, you wouldn't ever be messaging Heinz on WhatsApp. And we think like one of the real value, it adds real value to us because we can just communicate directly with our customers. Another example is we contacted them last week because we're in the process of developing some new products. We've got 3 or 4 ideas that the data supports equally. So we've gone out to our followers and asked them what they'd like to see. And it just means we can get people to engage with our brand, and we can also get that instant feedback from people. We're super careful not to be spammy. So we'd send 2 messages a week maximum, so we don't drive people mad. And we realize that, WhatsApp's obviously an intrusive form of contact with the brand. So we have to kind of respect that. As you can see on the left, we ran a source amnesty, was one of the other kind of fun things we did. So we got people to send over pictures of their sad fridges with, old ketchup bottles that have been in there for months and months, crusty mayonnaise bottles, all that kind of stuff. And then the worst ones that came in, we would send like a replenishment of good sauce to. So we ran lots of little fun challenges like that. The one at the bottom, if you text the name of one of your ketchup obsessed friends, I'm hooked on Heinz, please help. We then send them a bottle of ketchup. So we ran lots of different things like that just to get people engaged and get people talking about it.
As I said yesterday, I'm just going to interrupt you again. Sorry, Liam, but I absolutely love this idea. I love the idea of using WhatsApp to broadcast messages to people. And I think, as I said yesterday, the idea that as a brand, you can be sat amongst several group chats is such a nice place to be, and it's very, very unique. As you said, there's not going to be any Heinz or, big FMCG companies doing this. And I think, just the idea of being able to, your brand being amongst a couple of group chats, friends, families, is just such a powerful marketing platform that, it's great. Love it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it will get more powerful. There's WhatsApp business that's being built with the ability to kind of link in with your Shopify store so people can manage things from there. So I think it's a great tool to use, and one that we'll try and build more into our marketing as we go. And then the last channel is email. So we wanted to get everybody involved, and some of these people were our investors. So we was really open with our investors in that they're the people who supported us and the people who can help us most sort of in our time of need when we needed to sell bottles in Tesco. So this is just a couple of the snippets from emails I'd sent to our investors. We'd attach the store lists so they could see exactly where they were. And we just tried to, I think one of the key points about this campaign was we just tried to wrap everything up and make sure all the communication we did was as clear as possible. It was over an 8-week period, and we tried to make sure it was a really intense 8 weeks, and we wanted people to be saying, and we did get that feedback, seeing you on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, email, and just hit people over a short period and then have a break from it, because it's obviously quite intense. But we just tried to make sure that everything, and this is where our marketing people, who are a lot better than I am, just made sure that all the comms, and by having that call on the Monday morning, we'd make sure that everything joined up. And even when I was emailing the investors, marketing were leading on it and making sure that everything was super clear and fitted in with all the content that went out that week, so that we could just make it really as easy as possible for people, and they knew exactly what the actions were to take from everything that we put out. In terms of the results, so we had reach of just shy of 192,000 people on our Save Our Source campaign. That was just LinkedIn. We had more than that across when you add in Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, and email. We sold the 10,000 units, and the food bank donations in process at the moment. And we know it's always almost impossible to measure the impact of marketing on rate of sale. But we know from the images we receive from people, we got lots of texts with people, photos of the aisle, photos of their bags in Tesco, photos of sauce on the kitchen table from when they'd ordered from Tesco.com. We know we had an impact, and we were seeing weekly sales rising over the summer. So we knew that there was that halo effect happening on our Tesco sales. And then just following up on that, we did a campaign around our B Corp as well, and used a similar kind of process. So we all wanted to celebrate as a team when we became a B Corp, but we couldn't. So we did a Zoom call, and we recorded the whole Zoom call and cut it down into a few minutes where we talked about what B Corp means. And we've used that across various bits of content. So that had 8,000 reach on Instagram and Facebook, and then 1,500 engagements. So that's what I prepared. Hopefully that is a kind of reasonable insight into how to use LinkedIn and organically to reach lots of people. And yeah, happy to open up for questions and to talk about it a bit more.
So LinkedIn, are you saying that this is one of your now primary marketing channels?
Yeah, I'd say so. Definitely primary for us. We have it kind of always on, so we'll always we all try and post a couple of times a week, but we will do campaigns where whenever we do something on other channels, we'll always mimic it on LinkedIn and try and drive it there. So yeah, it's definitely primary for us. I can just see on the comments, Oliver saying they're using LinkedIn, Simon as well, and Lowry. So there's three people who also.
Yeah, really interesting for B2C. Obviously, as a B2B business, it's way more common to be using it as a primary marketing platform. But for B2C, it's really great to see that you're using it so well. Are you producing native content for LinkedIn, or are you repurposing? Is it content that's being spread across all of your channels?
Both. So we quite often produce native stuff. It's a mixture really. So depending on if we'll always kind of repost stuff that we put on Instagram that is in the plan anyway. But often if we're in sort of campaign mode, like we were over the summer, we produce lots of native content. But that doesn't mean we were putting lots of time and effort into it. It would just be 2 minutes sort of founder in front of the camera style content.
Interesting. Oh, I was just about to talk to you, Simon, but I see you're about to speak anyway. So yeah, please carry on.
I was going to ask a question, thanks. Liam, I was going to ask about with the WhatsApp, that kind of loyal fans group. Years and years ago, like before WhatsApp, I had a kind of loyal fan group that we used to, for a different brand, we used to take to the pub and ask them what products we should launch. But like WhatsApp's like the modern version of that. But how have you found that? Like, is their judgment good? Do you think what loyal fans want is different to what the kind of mass group out there want?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's super helpful to have that connection to people. I think we would never take what they say solely on face value. So, for example, we're the source that we're thinking about launching. There's 4 options, all of which are founded in data originally. So we wouldn't just kind of ask for their thoughts, but they are good, and they're it's really helpful just to be able to speak to your consumer. We've used them for things like feedback on our rebrand designs, because quite often you're just so close to the process, everyone in the team, that you just need a fresh approach. And we always get, whenever we do these surveys, we get them to put their sort of their age and sex and things like that, so we can get the demographics, and we can see the answers by demographic as well, so we can like maybe weight up people that are in our target customer base versus others and things like that. But yeah, they have been super helpful, and I just think if you look at D2C brands that we're not really, the real advantage they have is they can just launch products quickly, get feedback from their customers, and implement that. And I think we want to be doing everything we can to really shorten that feedback loop to our customers, and being able to contact them on WhatsApp is a good way to do it, as is going down to the pub with them as well in the kind of way when you can.
Yeah, I quite like the pub. Quite like the pub strategy, actually, Simon. I think we might try and implement that into our sales strategy here, to be honest. Simon, I am actually going to come to you with another question. You've mentioned that you are using LinkedIn as a marketing channel, and is that for Squeaky Bean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I guess it's because it's interesting for there's a certain like ceiling, isn't there, of like the number of people you can reach. So I guess it depends like on what size brand you are, whether LinkedIn's really useful channel for that. But then the other thing is, I think maybe how engaged the community is, and in plant-based, it's like insanely engaged. So people are such advocates in plant-based, and I guess probably similar for you, Liam, on like a brand which has some health connotations, or a brand that people have invested in, or that they're so engaged that they can really be advocates for you. So even if you reach 100,000 people, but 10,000 of them tell someone else as well, then it really starts spiraling, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've seen a lot of your stuff, Simon, and always seems to get good traction around the plant-based stuff. The thing that we see does really well is sustainability as well. So anything B Corp related, people are really curious to learn more about it. And that seems to be one of the angles alongside health. I think with the ceiling, we actively try and build our audience on LinkedIn. So we will follow people who are follow or connect with people that are we think are relevant to our brand. I think between Will, Josh, and myself, we've got about 16,000 followers, and that's something we track, and we try and increase that over time. And we find that when we post stuff that goes well, we'll often have 20 people adding you off the back of it, because someone shared it or someone's commented on it, and then you've packed up, you've reached new people who want to then connect with you.
So essentially you are LinkedIn influencers, which means we should get you on our creator list as potential collaborators. I'm interested in B Corp. So you said that I was really interested in the video that you did on Instagram, and the fact that it did such high good numbers, because to my mind, obviously B Corp is very much an industry relevant topic, and maybe not so much of a consumers I wouldn't expect to know much about B Corp. Maybe that's me being slightly naive and underestimating, but was really encouraging to see that you had got 8,000 views, was it? Do you think that was because you had explained it and people are so used to seeing your face on Instagram and were quite interested to tune in and hear what you had to say? Or do you think it was about the subject itself? Just interested.
I think it's the subject. We did the explainer video because we realized we got a lot of feedback from people who are in the industry who were saying, we love the idea of B Corp and it sounds like a great thing that people are doing, but I don't understand underneath the hood like what it actually means. So I think people are just really interested to hear about that. So there's 5 pillars of B Corp. So we did like a separate video on each of the pillars and what kind of things you'd be scored on in order to pass the assessment and become a B Corp. So I think people are just super interested in that. There's a stat that I think 9 out of 10 Gen Z or millennials would spend more on a purpose-driven brand. So people are really interested to hear more and want to support the movement, but they just don't understand what it means. So I think it's that kind of understanding of the topic that people want to get. And I think there's just more of throughout the pandemic, there's just been there's been huge focus on the environment, and it's that kind of top of mind. The climate crisis is the biggest emergency, so I think people are starting to realize that their behavior needs to change, and supporting B Corp brands is one thing you can do to try and help on that front.
Yeah. James has asked, how do you track ROI on social media investment? I'll just quickly jump in for me. It's all about making sure you have really super clear objectives, and knowing exactly what the return is that you're looking for. So depending on the investment that you're putting into it, having clear objectives of, is that sales, bottom line sales? Is it email signups? Is it people coming into your WhatsApp group? What are the objectives of the campaign, is really going to help you track. Liam?
Yeah, I answer that in two ways. So I think we've got almost two channels, so paid and unpaid. So on the paid side, with paid ads, we track it in the traditional D2C way. So looking at the cost to acquire a customer, what the cost of cost per click, and then what that translates to in CPC versus what we can afford to spend in our profitability. So that's the kind of like the traditional way. But then there's also LinkedIn, where we don't spend any money, and this whole unpaid area. So there isn't really any cost apart from our time. So we just optimize for reach. And what we track is how many followers the three of us have, and we try and increase that by a certain amount every month. And then also how many engagements we get on our LinkedIn posts, and we try and again monthly try and increase that and ensure that we're reaching a new audience on LinkedIn.
Cool. And do you find, thanks for that was really interesting. And do you find it's hard to compare versus other companies because it's harder for you to track the lifetime value of a customer?
Yeah,
your CAC.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard for us because people buy ketchup on average twice a year. So our lifetime value is not, if you're selling chocolate and people are buying it every week, it's a lot easier. So we have to just be sort of like relatively conservative. And also there's an interesting dynamic we find between people sometimes pick it up online because they want to buy 4 or 5 things, but then we have anecdotal evidence that they also buy us in retail. So they might pick up a bottle of ketchup in their retail shop in Tesco, but then they order a gift pack for a friend online. So it's very difficult to track what the value is because they're moving between different channels. And to be honest, we encourage that because we look at marketing holistically, and the more engagement we can get online, we can't easily track it, but generally when we have periods of high engagement online, we'll see rate of sales start to increase because there's just more eyeballs on the brand. So a lot of what we do is just engagement focused, and reach focused at this stage, rather than like right down the bottom of the funnel and conversion, because retail is a much bigger piece of the pie for us than D2C at the moment.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Cool.
Liam, could I ask another question? Sorry, quick one, but as well as like the consumer impact, do you think these kind of campaigns have impacts on buyers, supermarket buyers?
Yeah, definitely, and we share them with our buyers. So yeah, they love when we do that kind of stuff. So we put together every 2 weeks, we put together a little like roundup of what we've been doing in terms of marketing, and that's the online stuff, but also anything we do offline. And we send it to them, and they love to see what we're doing. They love the little videos, and we always show them the content. Some buyers are like really all over LinkedIn, some of the younger buyers in particular, and like will engage with it directly. We'll tag in buyers like when it's appropriate, like thanking them for space in store or whatever it is. And yeah, I generally get really positive engagement from that side of things from buyers.
Cool, thanks. I just really think that can be one of the biggest wins. If you can, sometimes a buyer sees lots of stuff happening on LinkedIn, it's like, wow, these guys are doing loads, and they'll give you that extra bit of support, maybe that extra bit of distribution.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think you can definitely get this like delusion of being a bit of a bigger brand than you are, just because you're noisy. And I know like Ugly Drinks are a great example of that, when they were a couple of years ago, before they were actually turning into a bigger business. You just saw them everywhere, and you felt like they were almost like a multinational, because they were just like Hugh, the founder, was just like incessant with his posting personally, and with through Ugly. And like he was one of the people that we looked at originally, because he's had a real personality behind the brand and tried to sort of emulate some of that energy.
Cool. Anybody else in the last couple of minutes? The last 3 events that we've done, we've managed to cut off bang on time, and I'm keen to do that again. So anyone want to fill our last 2 minutes?
I would like to ask something.
Excellent.
Do you have any advice for someone who doesn't, I'm not local, I'm not English, so I was thinking about LinkedIn for me, and it's quite, if you don't have a network here on family and friends, it sounds a bit difficult for me, but I don't know what about partnerships or stuff like that?
What's your product?
So I'm working with a friend of mine who's Italian also, and she sells homemade food from home. So yeah, we are unknown to say, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I would start just connecting with people in your industry and the people you want to be in front of. So connect with, if you want to sell through retail, connect with the buyers and just connect with generally kind of like other founders of food and drink businesses, and you'll start to just like build a network up on LinkedIn of people that engage with you, and then just start building that out actively. I would just like actively connect with or follow 50 people, just so that they start to see your content, and then you'll start to have an audience for it. And then once you have that, you can then start to post about it, and like don't overthink it. So things that do really well on LinkedIn are short text posts. You shouldn't put links in the post, links away from LinkedIn, that gets penalized. So if you want to put a link in, put it in the comments. Text posts tend to do best. And then also like videos for us, we find do really well because people like to see people behind the brand. But in general, like keep it really simple. 3 or 4 sentences, any images of your product, and just start to see what works well. Keep a really simple spreadsheet of like what people seem to engage with. And then when you see something that's working, double down on it and do more of it, and just keep over time. If you see people commenting and liking your stuff, connect with them so they see the next post, and I'll just go from there and just keep it. Don't overthink it.
All right. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Cool. That leads us on to bang on 4 o'clock. So we will end there. I don't want to take up any more of anybody's time, but thank you so much everybody for attending. I hope you've got some value out of it. Huge thanks to Liam. Honestly, it was so insightful. I really love all of the LinkedIn stuff, particularly the WhatsApp stuff as well. We'll definitely be recommending that to some of our clients.
Really good.
Good. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Liam, I will catch you later as well.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.